I'm going to hand it off to our CAO, Derek Thompson. Come on up, Derek.
Nice work, Andy. Appreciate that. So you all have the very auspicious congratulations for me, because you're my first public audience I get to speak to since becoming CEO. So thank you very much for that. Okay. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today to launch the Civic Solutions Accelerator and being part of our panel discussion about the potential of this program and its many benefits. This is, as I said, maybe you didn't say it enough, but this is my favorite kind of announcement. It's municipal government at its best, collaborating with local and regional partners, public sector innovation, tackling old problems in new ways, and doing all that great continual improvement work that public service wants to be, and I think our citizens and our businesses expect us to be. So I'd like to thank the Mayor and Council for their support for open government and the initiatives like the Civic Solutions Accelerator. I'd also like to welcome our, I'd also like to welcome our panelists who represent 3 of our accelerator partners. Kevin Turr from the Canadian Open Data Exchange, based out of Comtech in Waterloo. A man that really needs no introduction, Keith Hill, President of the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, and also Kirk Roberts, Board Member at Innovation Guelph. So thank you for joining us today, really appreciate it. I'd also like to recognize the University of Guelph, our partnership with the U of G. The Guelph Lab is where the idea for the accelerator took hold, and their Center for Business and Student Enterprise is a valued accelerator partner. I'd also like to thank the employees of the City of Guelph, particularly on this new and flexible approach to open government and open data. I'd like to thank the teams in our water, parking, bylaw and clerks and planning departments for stepping up to the task and issuing the first challenges. They will be welcoming outside innovators into their work, and that's not always done in local government. But I think it's a great step forward to helping us create these new innovative ways to solve complex problems. So by inviting innovators into the city sites and offices, we're giving them unprecedented access to our employees, to the data, and to our experiences. We're creating an opportunity to test, improve, and build solutions with partnerships with businesses, the startup community that addresses our specific municipal issues and our community needs. I'm looking forward to seeing the outcomes. Now please join me in welcoming our Mayor, Cam Guthrie.
How's everyone? Excited to be here? Come on, everybody. Come on. Come on. I'm excited. I'm very excited about this. I do want to really make sure that we do thank the staff that have put this together. I'm thrilled to be here for it, and this is an exciting, very exciting part for Open Guelph that even if I was not the mayor, I'd be very excited about this moment right now. I really do want to thank Andy Best, the Open Government Program Manager, and all the staff, as I said, that have put this together, brought it to life. And Keith Kirk and Kevin, who've already been introduced, looking forward to hearing what you have to say later on as well. So my job here today is to kind of set the stage for what we're about to embark on. So I have a couple questions, and I'll try to answer them for you. The first one is what? So what are we actually doing here? And essentially, the Civic Accelerator is going to set up the city as an R&D lab for entrepreneurs, startups, students, and companies, so that they can find new innovative ways and solutions for our municipal problems. We're going to set up City Hall as a place where civic technology solutions can be created, tested, and commercialized. And we're going to be bringing entrepreneurs and partners into City Hall and embed them right into our city departments and giving them access to the information and to our staff. And they will bring what I have said many times, a fresh set of eyes to some of the challenges, and they'll bring a fresh set of ideas about what the solutions could be for our community. So that's the what. The next obvious question is, well, why? Why should we be doing this? Well, why is the City of Guelph thinking outside the box, trying to find solutions for these municipal problems and challenges? And I do have a little bit of a story to tell you. It just occurred last week. I was in Kitchener, actually at the rail station for when Premier Wynne came to make the announcement about the increased GO transit that many of you have probably heard in the area. And a key part of that announcement was actually an agreement between GO, Metrolinx and CN Rail. And that would move, CN would have to move a lot of their rail traffic off of the Toronto to Waterloo regional line. And if they did that, it could then free up for more GO trains and ultimately all-day two-way GO for the future. And the CFO and Vice President of CN, he spoke at that announcement. He was there, and one of the things he said, he's proud that such an old and established industry, being the CN freight line and freight rail, could play a big role in unleashing the potential of the new high-tech industries corridor. And the railways have always played a huge part in building this country. And rail, in this case the commuter rail, is going to play a huge part in unlocking the potential of the innovation corridor, and that includes Guelph. So how is that relevant, that story, to what we're doing here with the Civic Solutions Accelerator? Well, when most people think of municipalities, the word innovation is not necessarily the first word that comes to mind. Municipal government is an old and established institution. Council meetings have been run basically the same way for a long time. We're into titles like Your Worship or symbols with coats of arms and things like that. And like railways, municipal government is an established institution. But with this accelerator, we're starting the ball rolling and using this old institution in new ways to unlock new potential for the 21st century economy. Now, civic technology, I don't know if you know this, is an over $6 billion industry in North America. And when we talk about that innovation corridor between Toronto and Waterloo region, we know that Guelph can play a significant part to play. But we're not going to try, and I don't want us to try and copy what's already been done. I think we need to carve out our own niche. And a big part of that niche here is agri-food, agri-technology, and we're already national and international players in those categories already. But Guelph does have the talent and the skill and the expertise to be a player in the North American civic technology market. And this is a big opportunity for Guelph, for us, the Civic Accelerator, that will boost capacity and the expertise in real and measurable ways. And as an important benefit, the people of Guelph will see benefit from actual solutions being created. City departments and their employees will also benefit, not just our residents. And now, look, we're already benefiting from some of the partnerships that have been created through this accelerator. This isn't just a City Hall project, it's a partnership between the city, the Chamber, Innovation Guelph, Canada's Open Data Exchange, the University Centre for Business and Student Entrepreneurship, which is the C-Base that we have here in town. And I really want to thank, really, all of those partners that have come together and made this happen or continuing to make this happen. And I want to thank all those that might be new to become a part of what we're trying to do here in Guelph. And again, just at the top, I thank the city employees. I want to again thank the city employees for being so vulnerable to allow people to come in and try to help us find these solutions. It is worth it. It's not easy to take an old and established institution and do things that are unfamiliar and new. But as I said, it's definitely worth it. So I'm going to turn it back. I hope that set the stage a little bit of the what and the why. I'm going to turn it back over to Andy, and he's going to be sharing some info about the 3 challenges that we're going to be releasing. So let's welcome Andy back to the microphone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Yep, thanks.
So I think we've probably got a pretty good sense of the process of what's going to happen here. We're offering an opportunity for companies to apply to tackle a number of different challenges. And why can't we just do that ourselves? Well, we don't know what we don't know. Technology is moving extremely quickly under our feet, and we are not, as we've heard, known to be the most nimble type of institution. And so we're trying to bring that pool of experts who is at the leading edge of technology change, civic technology innovation, etc. We want to invite them in and give them an opportunity to embed within our departments to tackle a number of challenges. And we've got a very short video, it's about 5 minutes in total, for all 3 challenges, and we're going to show those to you right now.
Matthew 1-1, Winnie 1-2.
Every day we take water from 18 groundwater wells within the city, treat that water and supply it to homes and businesses.
The technology that's currently installed at the majority of premises is old technology, to be frank. Physically, a reader needs to go out to each premise individually and obtain the read from the water meter.
Really, there's an opportunity if they could have more information available to them to start to say that once again my house is performing fine, there's opportunities for conservation, or I have a leak and it's time to act before I start losing more money. There was some good structure, some commitment from the top of our organization. Gave me, a lot of promise in getting started in this initiative. Once again, excited in the fact that we can, work with business in a new way, work with community stakeholders in a new way, and hopefully get a made in Guelph solution that comes to address our problem.
So we get to enjoy the dramatic music back to back. Very good.
And a 1-1, Doug 1-2, and 1-3.
Parking is one of the fundamental infrastructures for a place like Guelph. How do you take a 20th century infrastructure like the automobile and bring it in to a 21st century town, getting more people to live, more people to work, and more people to shop and come down and enjoy events and the public space means handling more cars.
We have several different apps and applications that will look seamless to the public, but in our office alone, it may be 4 different applications that we have to open and process to get one report out. The officers have to use different apps and carry different pieces of equipment in able to enforce our locks and on-street parking.
One of the biggest calls for service we often get is related to parking, both in the downtown and outside of the downtown. So what ends up happening is while they're doing that, there might be a call for another matter, such as noise, and that officer is unable to attend that for half an hour.
How to make investments around parking fit into the economy of downtown, position it so that people can understand that it's an investment in creating more capacity for jobs and people and retail and street level activity for downtown over the long term.
This is to advance technology, to advance how we work together.
The only way that City Hall will actually get to solve this in a good and transparent and public way is actually using this as one of the tools to get us better information and build some capacity and understanding within the community on how parking can operate better for Guelph.
So the planning department in Guelph, we're responsible for making recommendations on land use decisions across the city. Should this area be residential, or should it be commercial or industrial? It's also the smaller detailed regulations, like distances from property lines to sheds, and the whole range in between.
The city clerk's office is really the conduit through which the public gains information and access to their elected officials. We're the ones that put the planning notices in the newspaper that tell you about what's happening in your neighborhood, what's happening with land use development, what's happening with the property down the road from you from a planning perspective.
One of our major concerns is ensuring that we get public input into the planning applications that we get into the city every day. We want to be sure that people are informed about what's going on in the city in terms of new planning applications. So if there's a zone change going on in their neighborhood.
The best example is sometimes you'll see a notice in the newspaper or a notice on a placard outside a property, and it's really labeled with kind of jargon language, legal descriptions. We want to advance that, we want to change it, we want to make it more consumable for the average person, we want to make it real time and current.
I think this is a great opportunity for us to make a difference in how we interact with the public and give them the opportunity to know right away what's going on in their neighborhood, things that affect their lives, and how they can have feedback and input into them.
So, So let's channel that applause to where it really belongs, which is to all the wonderful staff from the departments that you saw in these videos. This was an idea until we filled it with people, good people, who brought it to life, and all those people are all across the city. So I know Derek said thank you, and the mayor said thank you, but I'd also like to add that myself to everyone who helped bring this to life. The way that we did bring it to life is through a really old mechanism that the city has for buying stuff called the request for proposals. This is where we're going to switch gears into our panel because yes, we're talking about solving complex problems, and there's the whole side of this for the city and what this is going to mean. But there's a whole other big incentive and opportunity here for business, and this relates to how small companies, innovators, startups, that kind of thing can access city business. I'm going to hold on that because we've got some folks who are much smarter than I who are going to tell us about it. So I'm very pleased. We have a brief round of applause for Kirk Roberts from Innovation Guelph, Kevin Tour from the Open Data Exchange, and Kitty Omanzia from the Chamber. You're on the morning show, Coach, yes.
Good to see you after me.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming. So, opening up procurement has quite a wide range of benefits and opportunities for the city itself, for companies that are seeking access to city business, partners who are involved in the accelerator. Could you take a moment to introduce yourself and your particular perspective on this issue, and then share your initial thoughts on the accelerator model, how it works, what it's trying to accomplish, from your particular vantage point.
Sure.
And sorry to interrupt, we're off mic, so we're going to do our best Shakespearean projection.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. So much of my career was actually built on this model. The first software product I was involved in was building a client data encounter tracking system for Ontario healthcare centers in the late 1980s. And that was a case very similarly where one healthcare center worked with us as a software company. I was with a nonprofit software development institute at the time. And we built software for them with the intention of replicating it across Ontario. And I spent much of my career with a company called OpenText. And we principally acquired other software companies. One of them was a company called Hummingbird, you may have heard of, which was a large Canadian software company from Toronto. Most of their business was with municipal governments. And in two lead applications. One is they had a solution for what the UK local councils called revs and bends. So in local councils in the United Kingdom, basically they take in revenues and they distribute benefits to the citizens. we had software that helped manage that entire process. The other was in Australia. They had standards for document management throughout municipalities throughout most of Australia. And just two things I'll mention before I stop talking. One is people often don't understand the economics of a software company. And so in a mature, semi-mature software company, like beyond a startup, so somebody's sort of running a few years, 15 to 20% of the expenses goes into research and development. 50% of the expenses goes into sales and marketing. So anytime you can build a repeatable, verticalized solution and take that to market. So if we could have companies work with the City of Guelph to build interesting solutions to water management or parking or public notices that are immediately repeatable and easily purchasable across Ontario, you can build a strong business from that. And then similarly, if you want to grow, you think of the UK, Australia, United States, state governments in the United States pushing down is a little bit of a different model, but as soon as you can build a repeatable model and get into a jurisdiction, your costs for growth are much, much less. Right? So if you can take your business to the US, not to the whole of the United States, but to the state of Illinois, right? Sell some to the city of Chicago, and then sell the rest of Illinois, and then move state by state, your cost of growth are tremendously cheaper and more sustainable. And I think if you look at the whole of the assets and what Guelph could offer, this is just a tremendous idea that could be a great lever for some local businesses and the city to be sort of first in. Because the other challenge, last thing I'll say, having sold a lot of services to municipal governments, every municipal government thinks they're a one-off. And there's tremendous pressure to build bespoke solutions all the time. That said, it's always great to be first and have a lot of your one-offness in there already. It's a little bit of extra cost because your people have to get used to that. But anyway, super model and really congrats on doing it.
Kevin Tour, I'm with an organization called Canada's Open Data Exchange. Canada's Open Data Exchange, quite simply, is all about helping companies commercialize open data. So I'm speaking to the converted in the room. Open data is not new. I would believe that in the majority of the cases, open data came about as a result of improved transparency in open government. And what we're trying to do as an organization is change the conversation slightly and say, let's look at open data also as a resource that the private sector can tap into to create new solutions, new products, new services. What I love about the model that's evolving here with the City of Guelph and why we're thrilled to be a part of it is it's not only looking at open data as a resource, it's also working to build that consensus for those that can benefit from the commercialization of open data. And this is where I would take my hats off to Andy and his folks, is because I can appreciate that's a bit of a culture change that has to occur in order for that to happen. Because one of the challenges that we hear all the time when we talk to the cities and the provinces and the feds to open up their data is, well, to open up data for us at this point is all about risk. We have to make sure it's anonymized. We got to be careful who uses it. We got to make sure you can't put 3 data sets together and triangulate the identity of an individual or whatever. And I think part of the reason why it's seen as risk is because we haven't finished the conversation, and that conversation is, but look at it this way: if you open up your data and you put it into the hands of those that can create solutions, perhaps they can create a solution for you. And so you need to have that value exchange in place in order for that to occur. And this is what this is all about, I think. It's about creating that value exchange, because I think we've all had that experience when we've gone on and we've Googled something only to find on the sort of right-hand side these searches that I did 3 years ago pop up, and it feels a little creepy because all of a sudden you know more about what my interests are than I did in many ways. And I think we all feel like that's almost been taken from us without our consent to do that. And so now I think the notion is that open up data just equates to risk. But this is a great way to change that conversation. This is a great way to get out there and say, let's open up the data, but through the consensus that's been built within the city and the Civic Accelerator to aid all of that process, let's build some real value-add solutions that are actually going to solve the problems for you, and then there's a good, clear value exchange. And again, the other big part about this, and again, this is where it's great to be part of this revolution that's happening here in the City of Guelph, is it's an exportable solution. It's something that doesn't have to stay here, and it can all move towards what I consider a smarter city platform.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm Keith Monson from the Guelph Chamber of Commerce. We represent the local business community. I think a lesson learned here is always go first. Because then after these two gentlemen, they've said a lot of what the value proposition is. So on the one hand, both have raised a number of really important issues. From our perspective, we see this as a neat opportunity that fits in with a number of priorities that exist sort of beyond the borders of Guelph. On the one hand, the provincial government has talked a lot about how to scale up small and medium-sized enterprise. How do we find unique opportunities to incubate small and medium-sized enterprises? And what this has the capacity to do is sort of leverage the purchasing power of municipalities to actually offer that scale-up capacity. The lab piece is also very important. It's this sort of access to a wide breadth of information that businesses are able to sort of utilize to scale up their businesses in a meaningful way. What's unique about this is twofold. One, on the one hand, it says, you know, business, here is information. Figure out a way through your ingenuity to make something of this, rather than overprescribing and saying, we want this. Business, give us a solution that is related to X that we have said, we have prescribed needs to happen. Rather, it's saying, here's information. You know, we'll work with you to build a solution, and we'll co-build something that you can then leverage beyond the borders as well. So that's actually the revolutionary part of it. It's the first mover part of it, and it's saying, how do we utilize the purchasing power of municipalities to actually scale up SMEs that can offer real solutions? And so that side of it is valuable for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it will allow the opportunity to expand businesses potentially in the world that are offering those solutions, and then commercialize it and are able to scale up in other marketplaces. Kurt talked about, you know, once you establish yourself as a market leader in civic technology, there's 400 municipalities in Ontario, all of whom face a variety of similar issues vis-a-vis parking, water, and planning. So you're looking at a very attractive marketplace to be able to scale up your activity should you go through the Civic Accelerator. The other part too is as an attractor of business, right? I mean, we talk often about how do we grow our local business community, how do we grow businesses locally, and certainly that's a very important part. But from an economic development and attraction piece, the fact that you have a municipality committed to offering those creative avenues for scale-up means that we become an attractor for those that are interested in civic tech. So to the mayor's point about, you know, how do we sort of carve out our space as an attractor in this area, you know, by us being as forward-thinking as we are and creating the space where businesses can come up with these solutions and then have those solutions moved to other jurisdictions that they can then scale up in. That has a lot of meaning from both an attraction and expansion perspective for our business community. I see a number of businesses in the room that are already involved in one fashion or another in the civic space. And this really is the municipality being responsive to those businesses and their ingenuity and providing that lab opportunity for them to leverage the data that comes out of the municipality to build stronger businesses and to be able to scale up. So it's actually very cutting edge in terms of the capacity for us to achieve a number of objectives: attraction of businesses, retention of businesses, expansion of businesses. And then the province, the province and many experts have talked a lot about how do we offer a scale-up path. And Guelph, which has always been a leader in so many ways, Guelph is actually saying, well, we'll figure out a way to do that, and it's going to mean trust amongst municipal public servants, trust amongst the community, and an acceptance of risk that you know, to the point of the data piece, that an acceptance of risk that really hasn't happened before. Reasonable risk, manageable risk, but this is actually very unique when it comes to any other jurisdiction, at least in Ontario.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Kithio, you went last, and so I'm going to keep you on the hot seat. We've been talking a lot about the benefits, but to ground us in one of the reasons why this started, I know that this is an issue that the Chamber's been doing a lot of research on. What was the problem before? Why were smaller entities having difficulty accessing city business? Can you speak a bit about that aspect of the challenge that we're trying to solve here?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I mean, I spoke to it a little bit, and the traditional model for public procurement is not friendly to small business. I mean, that's not something that's identified here in Guelph only. That's something that's identified in Ontario. In fact, BC came up with a small business charter, and part of that small business charter was breaking down the barriers associated with public procurement at the provincial and municipal level. So the RFP process, as it is, its layers of complexity aren't necessarily friendly to an access point for small and medium-sized enterprise. And that's by virtue of municipalities wanting to manage risk, of government wanting to manage risk. So what this does is it rethinks the way that procurement is done by co-building the solution with the private sector, by leveraging the ingenuity of the private sector to actually come up with meaningful solutions in a different way, where the outcome isn't over-prescribed, but can be informed by the involvement of the business.
Thank you. Kurt, I know that a lot of the work you did in your career was around civic technology. One of the links that, for working with government anyway, one of the links that we often have a challenge with here is what's the relevance of something that seems internal at the city? What's the relevance to the day-to-day lives of citizens? Could you comment on civic technology in general and what we learned about the challenges, you know, how you see that link between the way the government runs essentially and the actual day-to-day experiences of citizens?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most brute force link is when you get the $575 water bill because there's been a leak in your line for 45 days in June or in the summertime. I mean, from a government perspective, the municipal governments, for the most part, are the governments that, except for healthcare, touch people most directly in their day-to-day lives. So the more you can make municipal services seamless, transparent, and cost-effective, I think the more you can, on the benefit side of passing on great services to your constituents.
Kevin, the Open Data Exchange, as one of the partners, has been one of the front lines for us in terms of talking to potential applicants and generating interest in this program. Could you briefly share some of the things that you've heard as you reached out and spoken with various companies about whether or not, you know, this is exciting just in this room, or is it resonating with other people? What's your experience been there?
Well, I think it's, especially in the open data space, there's been a lot of work around the hackathon kind of approach. So here's a bunch of data, go out and create something wonderful for me. And that's pretty much all the guideline that you're given. What's interesting and unique about this, and I think this is why there's excitement about being engaged in something like this from either an SME or startup perspective, is that there's a problem to be solved. There's an identified problem to be solved. And I think what's as important about it as anything is the fact that you've got a potential customer sitting at the end of that. So if I were to come up with a viable solution that works, that the business model is there, you get to work with your customer. I mean, that's a unique part about the Civic Accelerator, is how often do you have that opportunity in, you know, what we consider, for the most part, a very agile approach, to be able to interact with your customer and get feedback, which is exactly what this experience is going to be about for them. So imagine then how that's going to translate to maximum opportunity for success as a business. That's what's exciting to them. If you're solving a problem, because there's lots of companies we've seen out there, startups, SMEs, whatever, that have created a wonderful job at solving the problem. It's just it was the wrong problem that they were solving, and then they disappeared because there's no market for it. This is what's exciting about this, and I think this is why we're getting the early traction that we're getting, is because because there is a tangible outcome at the other end of it, a potential customer. And again, it's not a customer base of one. It's something, you know, the 400 municipalities across the country, or whatever that may be. But then let's look beyond those borders, because you can bet that cities, you know, around the globe are dealing with various sort of nuances of the same problem. So this really is, you know, this is a global opportunity for them, and the best prize of all is the customer.
Well, one of the, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say is, if this is genuinely going to function as an accelerator, I think the purchaser is going to go through the same kind of process as the vendor. In that, you know, you've got 3 problem statements that were your best guess going in, and inevitably, midstream, you may find 1, 2, or all of them that you find great solutions to other problems, related or unrelated. And I think there will need to be a constant need to evaluate whether to continue down the path of the originally defined problem, or whether to pivot jointly and move towards solving what you found at midstream. Because if you look at typically any of those problem statements you just described, usually, rarely, I should say, does someone go into a process trying to solve one problem and actually come out of it solving that same problem.
I think that's going to be what ends up being one of the biggest tests for the accelerator, which is, you know, how quickly can we support rapid prototyping and testing? How quickly are we able to offer entrepreneurs the capacity to fail on some of their tests and then re-engage? You know, typically in an RFP process, it's the parameters are very rigid. Things like prototyping are not something that occur. Things like being able to do short-term tests where you're gauging the marketplace a little bit and gauging some of your assumptions. Again, those aren't elements that you traditionally will see in an RFP process. What is the differentiator for this should be the capacity to allow businesses to engage, prototype, test, fail, and re-engage to see ultimately how they're able to come out with the best solution on the other end.
Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you very much for coming up and joining us here on the Morning Show couch. I'd like to bring you everywhere with me and have you talk about our programs, whatever means we're in. Can we please thank KPO and Kevin and Kirk? So, true to the spirit of municipal efficiency, we're done 20 minutes early, which is how we do it here at the City of Guelph. We've actually got a brief opportunity if anybody has any questions, either for any of our panelists, or we've got a number of our staff here from the various departments. Really, if there's anything that popped into your mind throughout this event, we've probably got somebody in the room who can answer it. So has anybody got any questions? Mr. Mayor.
I just want to pick up on what Kurt was saying about how, you know, you're going down one path and something might then have to be redefined as you're going. So if that occurs here on these 3 sort of key areas, did you already have in mind of timelines of when things might start to be, you know, beta tested and then become real world? Or is it always kind of open, no pun intended, to be fluid enough that, hey, this may be a 2-year process, this may be a 2.5-year process, not a 6-month process. So do you have any ideas at all about sort of timelines of when things can be shown to staff and to the public?
Yeah, so our goal is to hold a demo day in December. The embed starts in September, and there's 3 months of deep diving that the company has, opportunity access to our staff and departments. But that's actually a really great question, because there's a number of different endpoints to this process, all of which are good. Depending on the size of the problem, depending on the solution that gets proposed, depending on the weather, all kinds of different factors that can impact this. We might come to a point where in December we have a thing, a physical thing that could be used, rolled out in pilot, whatever it might be. We might have a far better idea, you know, that's been developed And in that case, it would probably be something that's more of a 1 year, 2 year solution. Or we might have not too much, but we have a better understanding of our problem. And maybe we've come to a situation where we're ready for a traditional RFP, where we understand what it is an RFP. So I think the key to this is open-mindedness in terms of outcomes, that we want to, that's why it's the Solutions Accelerator. We want to move the ball down the field as opposed to the solutions absolutely going to get her. Because we might end up at a variety of different points, and those are all good things because we've gotten closer to tackling these big problems. Barb?
So, say there's a company who can address, or they think that they can address one of the issues. What is the process? Like, how do they start, and what's the process that they would need to go through?
Yeah, so the link is gone, perfect timing, but at open.guelph.ca/accelerator, all the links are there. The process is actually a request for proposals. Typically those, it's been mentioned a couple times in the panel, typically those are purchasing documents that say, this is explicitly what we want, in lots and lots of detail. This is an RFP with challenges, and no solutions spec'd out. So we're inviting people to propose solutions. Now because it's an RFP, there's an evaluation involved, and that's basically split down the middle of, does the solution that's being proposed, do we think that's going to solve our problem? What's the quality of the idea? And does the entity, be it a startup or an existing company or whatever, does the entity have the business chops to potentially bring this thing to market? Because those are the two sides to success here. It's important that it's an RFP because that gives us, that enables us to legally make a purchase, if we so choose down the line. If it wasn't an RFP, then we might have to go through another competitive process. So if someone, an applicant, and that's something that I would hope everyone here would share through their networks, if they know someone who is interested in this, or a friend, or etc., the first step is to read the actual challenge statements that are in the RFP, guelph.ca/bids and tenders, or you can get there from open.guelph.ca/accelerator. Check out the challenge statements, check out the criteria for applying, and then there is a submission. RFPs are notorious for being difficult and grinding and all those kinds of things. So we're using an old tool for a new purpose. And so we've made the process a lot more fluid, a lot friendlier on the applicant, to really focus more on the quality of the potential solution and if they've got the chops to bring it to market. Kyle?
And then who evaluates those?
So just like every RFP, there's a panel, and it's all, everyone scores it, and then there will be shortlisted folks coming in for pitches as the final hurdle. So each challenge has a slightly different mix, but essentially it's someone from our procurement department. We've got one person from Innovation Guelph, one of our valued partners, and I believe we've got the Open Data Exchange, and then people from the department itself. So we've got a mix of people who can both evaluate those two things. Will this solution meet our needs, and does this entity have the chops to pull it off?
Does the proposal include the price?
No, mostly not. Yeah. It's interesting. This is another one of those legal things, is that I believe the legal requirement is that 10% of the evaluation has to be price. And so I forget the specifics. We teased it out in one way, but essentially it's different from saying, give me your number, and then low bid, gets.
But there still is, when you're making the proposal, you're still proposing a price on the thing you're applying for.
Very loosely. Yeah.
Is the intention to, at that point, just select one entrepreneur per submission to go forward?
Yeah, so we've got the 3 challenges. Each one is technically its own application process, even though they're all within the same document. And we would love to embed 2 out of 3, two winners, because we really want to focus on the best of the best for this first pilot. Because we really are, seems big and full, but this is a pilot. We're testing the model, we're testing the legal framework, all those things. But if we get 3 for 3, then we're absolutely pleased. So yes, we have the capacity to support a winner on each challenge.
And just follow up, is the RFP structured in any way to prioritize Guelph-based entrepreneurs?
No.
Okay, so full
Yeah, that's not something that we're legally able to do, put geographic restrictions on our procurement. Yeah. In the back.
This is really exciting, and thanks for the opportunity to hear more about it. Is this something sort of brand new to Guelph, or has other municipalities done this before?
It's brand new to Guelph. We are in a small but exciting group of cities around the world that are tackling this sort of problem-based procurement. San Francisco was the pioneer in 2014. They did a program called Startup in Residence. Amsterdam's Startup in Residence program is active right now. And Montreal has a program called InnoCité, which is, again, playing in the same space. Ours is a unique approach under the rules that govern us, Ontario procurement law. InnoCité is an external not-for-profit that is partnered with the City of Montreal, but is not actually internal to. Amsterdam is a whole other can of worms because it's European Union procurement, and city governments there are responsible for healthcare and all kinds of other stuff that is not local jurisdiction here. And the goal in Amsterdam is to create new businesses, startups inside of Amsterdam that will be there. So they've got a whole other framework. So we're taking this idea in principle and we've brought it to life under the conditions that we live on here in Guelph.
Is the city's goal of this to build other revenue streams through the partners that might create solutions, like Kirk said, that might be replicable in other places?
Well, there are, as I said, a variety of situations, all of which are good. The absolute blue sky home run is that we make some sort of purchase. We would do that if we say, this is fantastic and we understand fully the benefits that we'll have for city efficiency, for citizen-facing benefits, et cetera, et cetera. And in the, like I said, the name of the game here is flexibility. In the event that the company would not be able to bring their solution to market without our financial investment, we would put a clause in the agreement that says, if that is the case, we would like to have a good faith negotiation over potential royalties. So not triggering any sort of automatic grab because you want to partner with people who want to partner with you. But the short story is, in a particularly narrow but wonderful set of circumstances, yes, there is a potential for revenue streams coming in.
And just saying that, have any of the other countries or cities done that in their revenue model?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They've not.
It's time for one more question.
Yeah, just one of the exciting things that came up during the whole process of creating this with you guys was the piggyback clause, which is such a great opportunity considering how much time people spend doing sales and marketing. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of the benefits for the companies that are embedding?
Sure. Kithio, maybe would you like to tackle that one, the piggyback or tailgate clause, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot of deflection there. Yes. So the tailgate clause is, Andy mentioned this. He mentioned that the city is undertaking an RFP process. Under the way that Ontario procurement law is set up, once you go through a municipal procurement process, you wouldn't have to necessarily go through another municipal procurement process in another jurisdiction. They would be able to say, this company X went through Y process, which fell under the legal guidance of Ontario procurement law, and it allows the opportunity for municipalities to be able to go with X company that already went through the procurement process at the City of Guelph. So it is tailgate, piggyback, but it's you already went through a legislative process. You don't have to go through one again. Your product can be bought by another municipality because you went through a process. On the first slide, you don't have to go through it again. It's actually
hugely powerful.
It's a great sales and marketing opportunity.
So this whole program is built on mutual benefit and incentives for both sides, and that's been, we've heard from a variety of different people and their partners and potential applicants. That's a huge one in terms of potentially opening up the entire province, not just the City of Guelph as a potential client.
I think most of you are from the municipality, but just to put this in perspective of how important it is, in my experience, like Kithio was very polite. I don't know this is Guelph because I've never done any sales with Guelph, but typically I would describe selling to municipalities as a nightmare. So there's sort of three measures in sales, and one of them is your sales cycle time. And a typical sales cycle time to a municipality, in my experience, is 2 years, right, from start to conclusion. So if you're a small company doing $1 million a year, and you've got an average deal size, which is the second measure, of $150,000, $175,000, and a 2-year cycle on deals, and you're only doing 6, 8, or 9 a year, it's hugely, hugely challenging. And then the last measure is called DSO, Day Sales Outstanding. The other problem with municipalities is you never get your money. So it's the whole piggyback. It's critical.
Yeah.
It's absolutely critical.
The amplification.
We've got time for one last quick question if anybody has one.
Actually, very similar to the gentleman here. I think one of the elements that I personally love about the Civic Solutions Accelerator is the government is not married to an RFP without first developing a relationship with a potential client or potential vendor. So that sort of try before you buy. If things sort of go south, then you can go your separate ways at the same time, so you're not committed right off the bat.
Yeah, and this is an answer to something that we probably all heard anecdotally or seen is when you see government dumping money at a problem. That's the problem that we're trying to solve. What's happening behind the scenes there is that they've entered into an RFP with a supplier, and either the problem wasn't scoped properly, or the solution wasn't scoped properly because they tried to write it off the top of their head beforehand, or whatever it might be. So then they're locked into that process, into that arrangement. It's big penalties to get out, and it's the lesser of two evils to keep pumping money into it. So that problem that we've probably all heard about, that's one of the many things that we're trying to solve here. I would really love to thank all of you for coming out today, especially to our panel, to Mayor Guthrie and CEO Thompson. I appreciate all of your time, and thank you so much for coming. Open.guelph.ca/accelerator. Tell your friends.